Hey everyone, it's me Rai, and in this video I'm going to be covering Winsor & Newton's art masking fluid and permanent masking medium. Art masking fluid is a tool I use in my watercolor practice a lot. I use it in almost every painting I do. I love it. It preserves the whites. You could just easily peel it off. It has a little yellow pigmentation as you see on the bottom so that when it kind of mixes in, it'll be easy to find. Permanent masking medium is pretty much just clear and you leave it on your painting. So if you've never used art masking fluid or permanent masking medium, I'm going to show you how these work. The art masking fluid has kind of an odor to it. It smells like very sulfury, kind of latexy, and I usually just put it in a little thimble sized container, and I use an old brush because it'll ruin a new brush if you have it. You can see me just painting it in, and it kind of bubbles. It has a lot of surface tension, so it'll stay a little bit puffy looking, so don't feel like you have to kind of smear it in. Here I'm using a bigger brush and I'm going to apply it pretty generously. I like to make sure that it's on there kind of thick because it just makes it a lot more fun to peel off, but also it makes it easier to peel off, I feel like. So this is going to seal the paper almost like masking tape in a liquid form. This is permanent masking medium. This is not going to mask it off so much as it's going to repel the paint. And I paint it on still a little bit generously. I try not to paint on too thick because it's meant to kind of dry more clear. If you paint it on thicker, it'll kind of be a little bit gray, but this is going to resist the color too. This is what art masking fluid looks like when it's still kind of drying. It's still a little wet. It's pretty much going to look the same when it's dry, where permanent masking medium, you could see it really easily now, but when it's dry, it's going to kind of disappear. Here's after it's dried, and you can see it's kind of very flat and matte. You could kind of barely see it. Once they're completely dry, it's really important that you wait for them to completely dry. Then you could go ahead and paint on top of them. I'm going to be using a little bit of Winsor green. I'm using the tube paint so that I could get some high saturation really fast and kind of paint a lot of it in. Watering it down with a little bit of water so it kind of flows really easily. And with my synthetic sable brush, I am just lightly painting over the masking fluid. And the art masking fluid is resisting the water. As you can see, it's going to kind of push it away. It's going to resist the water. It's kind of rubbery, so it doesn't stick. But hopefully this will give you some ideas, like if you're an abstract painter or if you're painting realism and there's hard things to paint around that you want to keep white, like a little glare in the eye or whiskers on a kitten or something like that. This is really helpful. Permanent masking medium, as you can see, I'm painting over it. It's resisting most of the paint, but a little bit is still staying behind on top, kind of like the art masking fluid. The only thing though is the permanent masking medium, we're not going to be able to peel it off. It's made to stay on the paper. So any areas where it's not completely white, that's literally how it's going to stay. Whereas the art masking fluid, when I peel it off, it'll reveal the white paper underneath. Let me show you how it's done. Once the watercolor is dry, I can just, with an eraser, kind of erase off, or with a clean finger, carefully peel off the art masking fluid. You can see how clean of lines and edges it makes. It's so crisp. So if you have lettering or windows or shimmers or glares to mask off, art masking fluid is definitely the tool you want to use. Permanent masking medium, depending how thick you kind of painted it on, it'll have different resistance to the watercolor. And in this case, you could also lift out the watercolor if some of the masking medium was still underneath, just in case you wanted to get it whiter. And on the flip side, with art masking fluid, if the harsh lines are too much, you could easily soften them up with a damp brush. I prefer art masking fluid more for the uses I have, but permanent masking medium is something I still want to experiment a little bit more with. Here's another example for art masking fluid and permanent masking medium. You don't just have to mask out the white paper. You could actually paint a background. In this case, I'm painting in some yellow and some green. And then I'm going to go in with my art masking fluid and permanent masking medium and mask off some grass on the top. And that's going to mask off that greenish golden color I have underneath. So you can see how these create a lot of possibilities with abstract work or realism work. On the bottom, I'm masking off where I want there to be a little moon and also some city lights. I'm going to finish painting in the little grass with the permanent masking medium and the little tiny windows in the cityscape. And then I'm going to get a little bit of magenta and mix it with some green to create a dark green and go right over the art masking fluid. And you can see it masked off the grass area. But remember, when this dries with art masking fluid, I'll be able to remove it and it's going to show even better the parts I masked off. Permanent masking medium is not going to do that. It's going to stay there. And what I see now is pretty much what I'm going to get. And you can see it's kind of, it's not masking it off as solid, but it does have a more natural feel. It's not as harsh as the art masking fluid is. Once they're completely dry, then I could lift out the art masking fluid so that I could see the brightness underneath. Let's look closer though at the permanent masking medium. If I do want something lighter, remember you could always go back in and kind of lift some of the watercolor out because there's that layer underneath that was masking it. It's easy to do. And the same thing with art masking fluid. If it's too harsh, I could always go back in and kind of melt the edges up and make it look more natural. The process I'm going to use for the cityscape is I'm going to paint 2 layers. One of them is just going to be the sky. I'm creating a gradation and then I'm blow drying it really well. And then I'm going to go in with kind of a black that I mixed and I'm going to paint in the buildings, and the masking fluid is masking off all those little lights. On the left, I'm going to need to remove the art masking fluid once it's completely dry, and the windows will show up nice and crisp because the art masking fluid again creates those very crisp edges, whereas the permanent masking medium is a little bit softer. So if you can imagine, if you're doing architecture or things where you don't want to have to paint around every single window, you could use it for this. I used it in this lionfish, masking off some of the white areas. I used the art masking fluid, painted in the brown stripes, then afterwards kind of removed the art masking fluid so that it was white underneath. Same thing with the water in the background. When I did these washes, these wet into wet techniques in the background, I did it right over some art masking fluid, so I was able to remove it after it was all dry, and I got these kind of white sparkles. These 2 mediums are really fun to play with. I would love to hear what you use it for. If you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to share, comment, subscribe, like. All this will help me out a lot. Thank you very much.